When I was younger, I used to make this nervous chirping noise a lot and couldn't really help myself. And it didn't really go away. And when I went to college, I thought, I'm back to Paul now, but I was still making that noise and I was cricket again. And then after I got out of college and went out into the world, same thing happened. I just remained cricket. So I graduated in the spring of 1977 from high school. And then it was that fall in '77 when I went to college. I wasn't to the point yet where I was thinking about the world or paying attention or wondering what the gay scene was like or anything like that. I was just pretty much exploring my own feelings. When I started going to the couple of bars that were open in the 70s and 80s, typically they didn't open until after dark. There was no signage in the front windows. Usually there was only access through the back, through the alley or the back door. They weren't advertised outside of very limited areas. So yeah, it was very underground back in the day. And partly for protection because, you know, that you were setting yourself up for physical abuse. So yeah, that's the way it was. The Lambda Lounge, I believe, was the first gay bar in Appleton that really was specifically gay. It was preceded by a kind of a mixed bar that was gay friendly, but this was the first gay bar owned by Gene and Paul. I had a lot of pictures of my friends from the Lambda Lounge, from parties and from Halloween and from whatever, and they were like, I just noticed they were missing. And I was mentioning it to my sisters, and one of them said, I think jokingly, she said, yeah, Mom probably burned them. And we both laughed a little bit. And then soon after that, I was taking a walk with my mother down the road. And I said, yeah, I'm missing a bunch of my photos. And my sister said, you probably burned them. And I like chuckled a little bit. And my mom was just totally straight-faced and kept walking. And I knew right there that, it surprised me, but I knew she actually did that. So I just, without saying a word, I turned around, went back to the house, packed my car, and I was gone before she even got back to the house. And she wanted to chat and sort this out, which I appreciated. So we sat and talked a while, and I remember saying, why don't you just come to the Lambda Lounge with me one night and meet my friends? They're good people. And this was totally out of her element. She really didn't drink, maybe a beer here and there. She wasn't a drinker. She wasn't a barfly. This was not her cup of tea, but she did. She, I don't want to say humored me, but she agreed, and she went to the Lambda Lounge with me and met a lot of people, and that was kind of a mending thing for me. My friends, Tom Thompson and Mike Belinsky, started the first AIDS service organization here in Green Bay. It was called Center Project. And they hired me as a part-time bookkeeper, and then within a year, I think I became accounts manager. And back then, people, our friends were dropping like flies. You know, I do remember sitting around in the bars with friends with paper and pen, and we're making lists of all our friends who have died within like the last year and a half. We'd have like 30 people on this list. It seems bizarre now, but that's what we went through back then. It was a big wake-up call. It sounds strange and unusual, and I guess it was, that you would have volunteers. A lot of our staff volunteered to do this and even to do the test. There are volunteers sitting out in the community diagnosing people with terminal illnesses that they might die within months or years. It just seems odd, but that's the way it was. And then I moved into prevention education, and I did a lot of education at schools, and I did a ton of HIV testing all over northeast Wisconsin. So I feel good about those 29 years that I worked in the AIDS service organization. During this whole time, I've published 6 books that I would describe as self-help or inspirational books. I think a lot of authors will tell you that you learn about yourself when you try to write something, whether it's a journal entry or a book. you have to make it all make sense, and you got to make these connections in your brain. So it was very healthy for me to write these books. I learned a lot about myself, and a lot of people have. I've gotten great feedback from people who have read them. They've helped a lot of people too, so that's just something else I'm proud of.